everyone. I am Mahati, and I'm here to talk about, my voice is at least here to talk about the challenges faced by and the resources available for ECPPs in limited resource countries. I put together this presentation along with my colleague Philip from Kenya. So we are often asked, what's it like to be an ECPP in a limited resource country? And often we kind of summarize our job into two parts. One is that we are busy trying to convince people of our need and our benefit. This can be an employer, a client, a participant, even our own family members. The other thing is that we are mainly trying to define our role, and we end up juggling a whole lot of other jobs. So I'll discuss both of these in a bit more detail. So why do we need to convince? It's mainly because of the lack of awareness of psycho-oncology, and that leads us into engaging in a lot of advocacy for the profession on a very regular basis. This mainly happens because of the negative attitude towards cancer as such. So a lot of people consider cancer to be a taboo, it equals death, it's a contagion. And also because of the negative attitude towards seeking psychological help. So it becomes really hard for us to kind of convince people that we are necessary cogs in the wheel, so to speak. So why do we play many roles? It's because we don't have a clear role given to us. So we kind of have to create roles as we go along. So it's usually based on the need at that moment in our workplace. Now, why does this happen? It's because, one, we have a shortage of skilled professionals. So we have a lot of hospitals and educational institutions, but they often don't have the funds, or they don't create the funds to have an adequate number of healthcare professionals. And I'll be talking about these numbers in a bit. Also, there's a lot of chaos, so there's no process of streamlining that's in place. So you just kind of end up in this sea of people and tasks to be done. So you sort of figure yourself out, you figure things out as you just go along. The other thing is that we don't have, or we have very inadequate amount of formal training. So typically, if somebody's done a master's in psychology or psychiatry or something like that, they go to different settings, and they do their internships, and then they say, hey, you know what, I like that cancer hospital. I'm going to go there back to do some more work or to seek employment. And then you sort of transfer your skills from, what you had learned to what is needed in that environment. Sometimes they can be completely different. So you kind of learn on the job, but with very minimum formal guidance or supervision. So I can't obviously talk about all limited resource countries because we're so different, and it's unfair to talk about the challenges or opportunities that are available for these countries. So I'm going to talk about one country as an example country, and that's India. Why? Because, I'm from India. It's a lot easier to talk about it. So just to give you quick numbers, we have 1.8 million cancer cases. We have more than 1 million cases every year. The oncologist-to-patient ratio is 1:2,000 as opposed to U.S. statistics, which is 1:100. And the prevalence of diagnosable psychiatric conditions among cancer patients is between 40 to 80% of the cases. Now, mental health professionals, that include psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers to patient ratio, and I'm talking about any patient, not just cancer cases, is 1 to every approximately 270,000 patients. So these are pretty scary and staggering statistics out there. And what are types of ECPPs available in India? Well, we have a really, really broad range of them. But the problem is that the ratio of professional to patient is very poor. So one psychiatrist plays the role of psychologists, counselors, social workers, to an extent nurses, and also researchers. What are the challenges that we face? A major problem we face is the lack of recognition. A lot of people don't recognize our profession as an important profession. They don't realize that it's important to seek help or refer people to us. They don't understand why they need to participate in a study for, what's the benefit to me? And when they ask a question like that, they mean, what's the monetary benefit to me? So what happens when we don't have recognition from any of the stakeholders, it limits our scope and our job market. So we have to literally create this job market. And it also means that we get very minimum financial support, either from the government or from the employer. Because they're not convinced about the fact that we are important and that we would provide necessary support. Consequently, we also have very limited educational support. So skills building and updating is something that we kind of do, as I keep saying, on the job. And the more important thing is that because we come from collectivist societies, our families influence our decisions, right? So we do this in a much more family level. So come on, our parents help us select our potential partners. Why wouldn't they help us select our careers? And when there is such limited job market, when the financial support is bleak, the education support is bleak, then automatically our parents or our family members are worried. So the sociocultural support becomes limited too. The other issue is that we have no formal network of psycho-oncology professionals. So for example, in India, I know of perhaps 6 or 7 professionals who I could collaborate with, and I'm hoping some of them are there actually in the audience today. The thing is that when we don't have a formal network in place, then we are having very inadequate knowledge and skills sharing going on. And we have inadequate to no accessibility to psycho-oncology specific workshops or other academic activities at a global or national level. So I might be conducting a workshop in my city, but it won't have the reach that it should have because we don't have a formal network that is endorsing and advertising so that we can have that kind of knowledge share. The other thing is that a major challenge, in fact, that we face is that we have minimum to no mentoring and peer support. So we end up not knowing what job to do. So I'm kind of thrown out there, and then I kind of figure myself out, about what job I want to do or what job I'm going to end up doing because there's nobody else helping me pave that way. And also we end up learning on the job as a consequence of that. Now, while these challenges appear to be really formidable, and they are very formidable, we do also have some opportunities available to us. Now, a major opportunity that we have is creativity. We get to create the job that we want to. We get to create the job that we want 10 days later, 10 years later. And we get to be thinking on our toes all the time because we're learning a whole host of new skills in a very hands-on manner. The numbers that we're dealing with are just huge. So imagine the excitement that we face on an everyday basis when we get to work, because we know that we're going to learn something new on an everyday basis in a very hands-on manner. We got to keep it real because, hey, you know what? Every day is unknown for us, and every day we're being bombarded by the insane number of people and with insane number of requests. So we don't have time for, any of the other noise. And also when someone, it could be your employer or it could be an institute that starts believing in us, then they really go all in. They just give it everything that they've got. So if somebody believes in us, the amount of support we get is phenomenal. And more importantly, we just get to pack a lot into our day. So we, on an experience rating, I think it's skyrocketing just because of the sheer numbers and chaos that we experience. So what is the benefit of having well-supported ECPPs in limited resource countries? So, that's something that as ECPPs we've been discussing a lot about. How do we support us guys from limited resource countries? And why do we already know that, but I would rather, iterate why it's important to support people like us. One is that it makes psycho-oncology services more accessible to patients in a very socioculturally sensitive manner. Because we can't literally take in the Western guidelines and adapt it to our country, right? Because again, also every every limited resource country is different to the next one, right? So when you have a well-supported ECPP group in these countries, then you're making these services, these guidelines, everything more accessible, but in a much more socioculturally sensitive manner. Because we will translate that into what is acceptable in that country. It also helps us develop and disseminate high-quality research and clinical services. It's not like we already don't engage in this, but it's important for us to formalize it and give it a bit more structure. And also develop global guidelines for care, taking into account our unique conditions and our unique cultures. Because, let's face it, there's just so much of migration going on that it's important to take into account where these people from other cultures actually came from, the physical place. So then the question really is, and that's why we're having the symposium, is what kind of support do we need? And these are, from now onwards, I'm just making some suggestions out there. It would be really exciting to hear from you guys, and in my case, maybe see emails from you guys about some more ideas and how do we support each other in our countries. So first of all, though, what is the kind of support that we need? Some ideas that I had were on an academic front. CSP, sure. But maybe taking into account the cultural nuances that we come from. So, for example, in India, we discovered that providing CSP for physicians might not work out, but providing CSP for nurses and, more importantly, family members was going to work out beautifully well. So, kind of understanding academic requirements for that particular country, and also developing country-specific psychological tools, so not using Western standardized scales, but using ones that are standardized to our culture. In the research domain, perhaps helping with design and methodology and dissemination of research is very crucial, because there is research happening over here. It's just that we don't know how to disseminate it in appropriate manners. It could be just English language, for example, or it could be something more like design methodology or analysis of data. In the clinical domain, some ideas are helping us learn how to detect and address psychiatric and psychological issues among care recipients, but again, keeping in mind the cultural milieu we come from. Maybe how to run support groups. And more importantly, about relaxing criteria and grant and award applications. This is a very important support that we need, because a lot of the grants and awards out there, for example, will have an age limit of 35. I'm 32. And what I've achieved at 32 is nothing compared to my colleagues who are even just 29 or 30 years old. Because I, on an everyday basis, have to combat a whole lot of, issues. Forget about structural barriers. I'm talking about, other barriers to even get one publication out there into the world. So, it's unfair for me to be competing with somebody else who doesn't have to face those kind of barriers that I have to. So relaxing criteria in these kind of grants and awards is very important. Just look out there. Look at IPOS, for example. Look at the people who've been awarded all those awards that are out there. You'll see that a bulk of them are Western. You know why? It's because that they can access things that we can't access. And by the time we gain access to these things, I'm well past the age or publication or whatever other criteria is out there. So that's a very important point that we need to bear in mind. And yes, there are awards and grants available, which is something I'll be talking in the next slide. But please bear in mind that they're available for people who are exceptionally driven or exceptionally lucky in our countries, that is. So another major thing is this fumbling. I say fumbling only because we're kind of like fumbling our way around figuring out this funding thing. One important thing is to make more grants available to ECPPs. I know they are available, but making them more in number, because we in limited resource countries, there are many limited resource countries, and there are consequently or subsequently many off us in number, but also offering us a range of activities that we could engage in that are more available to us. So more workshops, seminars. So there are a lot of workshops, yes, but how about seminars? How about summer or winter schools? How about a research exchange program? And also helping us understand what grants are available out there and how do we apply to them. Another reason we don't get the chance to apply for these grants is because we don't even know that they're there. And if I knew that there are these grants available, maybe I would have shaped my life differently so that I would have reached their currently stringent criteria. And also bringing the expertise to our countries, which I think IPOS is doing a pretty good job at anyway, but maybe bringing more expertise to our countries. Any ideas on how to develop mentoring and peer relationships? How about using technology? Example, this conference. How about we make it e-available so that I could have just paid my registration fee and attended it on an e-level. So how about, creating those kind of opportunities for us so that we don't miss out for whatever reasons. Creating discussion forums for us to discuss our work and getting more ideas about how to overcome certain challenges. Create inter-country collaborative opportunities, and here I'm talking about networking limited resource countries with other limited resource countries so that we all get to talk to each other and create more opportunities to collaborate with each other. And also developing train-the-trainer models and have very frequent reviews. So, for example, identifying people who can champion a certain vertical. So it could be academia, research, clinical practice, anything else. It's about finding appropriate people and then mentoring them and training them so that then they end up being the champions of that particular vertical in their country. And also providing endorsements, which again I think IPOS is doing a really good job at. And if they approach them, they do, do a review and then help us and get appropriate endorsements. Right. So thank you for listening to me. And that's a picture of what the face behind this voice. And if you have any queries, feedback, ideas, comments, please do email me.